If you could hear a recording of the voice inside your head for just one day, you would be absolutely shocked at how cruel you are to yourself. This internal abuse has become so normal that most people don't even notice it happening anymore. But here's what I discovered during my healing from cancer. Changing this one thing transforms everything else in your life. Right now, your mind is running commentary that sounds like, "I'm not smart enough. I look terrible. I always mess things up." You've been seeking solutions everywhere. Better jobs, perfect relationships, more money, except the one place that actually works. When I was battling cancer, I realized I had been my own worst enemy for decades. The moment I changed how I spoke to myself, my body began to heal, my relationships transformed, and opportunities I never imagined became possible. In the next few minutes, you'll discover 3 life-changing insights. The hidden source of every problem you're facing, and it's not what you think. How to recognize your authentic inner voice from the fear voice that's been sabotaging you. And the daily practice that transforms self-criticism into unshakable self-love. But first, I need to show you exactly where you've been looking for happiness in all the wrong places. Because until you understand this, nothing else will make sense. When your boss takes credit for your work and you stay silent, apologizing later for not speaking up clearly enough, that's abandoning yourself for approval. When you walk on eggshells around your partner, changing who you are to avoid conflict while feeling more lonely each day, that's seeking love from someone who can't give it. From childhood, we learned that love was conditional. Please, Mommy and Daddy, get approval, be good, get attention, achieve something, feel worthy. This programming runs so deep that most adults exhaust themselves trying to control every detail of their circumstances instead of addressing what's actually creating their pain. You work 60-hour weeks thinking more money will bring security, only to feel more anxious about losing what you've gained. You jump from relationship to relationship, convinced the next person will finally complete you. You move across the country thinking new scenery will change how you feel inside. The energy you pour into rearranging the outside world is tremendous, yet that fundamental dissatisfaction remains because you're trying to fix the reflection instead of what's creating it. I spent 3 years watching a woman try to save her marriage through therapy, books, and changing everything about herself to please her husband. She was exhausted and heartbroken. Then she began focusing on loving herself instead. She stopped abandoning her needs to keep the peace. Within 6 months, her husband began treating her with the respect she was finally giving herself. Here's the truth that will set you free. Every problem you're trying to solve is actually a mirror, reflecting your internal relationship with yourself. That job that drains you reflects how you abandon your own needs. Those money worries reflect a deep belief that you're not worthy of abundance. That chronic anxiety comes from the constant criticism running in your mind. The power you've been seeking everywhere else has been waiting inside you all along. But to access this inner strength, you need to learn something crucial about the voices operating in your mind. Because right now, you're listening to the wrong one. Remember that cruel voice I mentioned? The one calling you stupid, ugly, not good enough? Here's what's shocking. That's not actually your voice. It's fear masquerading as wisdom. And it's been running your life. But you also have another voice, your true inner guidance. And I'm going to teach you exactly how to tell the difference. When you're considering applying for a better job, fear voice says, "Don't bother, you'll just get rejected and feel worse." But wisdom voice says quietly, "Apply anyway. Even if you don't get it, you'll learn something valuable." When you look in the mirror, fear voice attacks. "You look terrible. Everyone will notice how awful you look today." Wisdom voice responds gently, "You're having a rough morning. Be kind to yourself today." The difference is unmistakable once you know what to listen for. Fear voice makes your body contract, chest tightens, shoulders rise, breathing becomes shallow. Wisdom voice makes you expand, chest opens, shoulders relax, breath deepens naturally. Try this right now. Think about something you're worried about. Notice how your body feels. Now take a breath and ask, what would love do here? Feel that gentle shift? That's your wisdom voice responding. For years, you've been following the fear voice, thinking it was keeping you safe. But it's actually been keeping you small, convincing you to settle for less than you deserve, to hide your gifts, to stay where you are instead of growing into who you're meant to become. Your wisdom voice has been patiently waiting, offering gentle guidance toward everything your heart truly wants. It's been trying to lead you toward greater self-love, but fear has been drowning it out. Now that you can recognize your wisdom voice, here's what it's been desperately trying to tell you all along, and why this changes everything about how you treat yourself. Your wisdom voice has been whispering the same message your entire life. You deserve kindness. You deserve the same compassion you give to others. But there's a reason you've been so cruel to yourself, and it's not what you think. During my healing from cancer, I realized I had never not once spoken to myself the way I spoke to my friends. When a friend made a mistake, I offered understanding. When I made a mistake, I called myself stupid. When a friend was struggling, I provided comfort. When I was struggling, I told myself to get over it. This isn't self-improvement, it's self-destruction. And most people believe this cruelty somehow motivates them to do better. Here's a technique that changed my life. When you catch yourself being self-critical, pause and ask, what would I say to my dearest friend in this exact situation? Then say those exact words to yourself instead of, I'm so stupid for making that mistake. Try, that didn't work out the way I hoped, but I can learn from this. Feel the difference in your body when you speak to yourself with love instead of attack. Self-compassion doesn't make you weak or lazy. It makes you stronger. When you know you won't be internally punished for imperfection, you become free to take risks, try new things, and grow. You stop wasting energy fighting yourself and start using it to create the life you want. I've watched people break through decades of struggle simply by changing how they speak to themselves. A woman battling depression started treating herself with the same kindness she showed her children. Her depression didn't disappear overnight, but her relationship with it changed completely. As you practice self-compassion, you'll discover something shocking. That cruel voice has been telling you the same lies about yourself since childhood. These aren't facts about you, they're stories that need updating. When you start being kind to yourself, you'll notice something fascinating. That mean voice hasn't been offering original criticism. It's been playing the same old recordings. You're not smart enough. You always mess things up. You'll never succeed. These aren't truths about you. They're childhood lies. that somehow became your adult reality. Here's how it works. When you were 7 years old, your father snapped, "Money doesn't grow on trees," during a heated argument about bills. Your innocent child mind heard, "Money is scarce and causes problems." That single moment created a story that's been running your financial decisions for decades. Every time you hesitate to ask for a raise, avoid investing in yourself, or feel guilty spending money on something you want, that's your 7-year-old's interpretation of one stressful moment controlling your adult life. Most of your limiting beliefs were formed by a child who didn't understand what was really happening. Your parents' stress became your story about money. A teacher's bad day became your story about your intelligence. A childhood rejection became your story about lovability. But here's what's beautiful. You get to choose what these experiences mean. You're not a victim of your past. You're the author of your story. And you can rewrite it anytime you choose. Try this. Pick one limiting belief you recognize in yourself. Instead of, "I'm not good with money," try, "I'm learning to make wise financial decisions." Instead of, "I always mess up relationships," try, "I'm growing in my ability to love and be loved." Your brain doesn't know the difference between an old story and a new one. It just believes what you consistently tell it. When you change your internal narrative, you literally rewire your neural pathways for success instead of struggle. But as you start questioning these old stories, something powerful happens. Emotions you've been avoiding for years begin to surface. Don't worry, this is exactly what needs to happen for your healing. As you start rewriting those old childhood stories, something beautiful happens. Emotions you've been avoiding begin to surface. Don't panic, my dear. This is exactly what needs to happen. These feelings aren't problems to solve, but wise messengers bringing you important information about what you need. For too long, you've been taught that emotions are dangerous things to control or hide, but your feelings are actually sophisticated guidance systems. Fear alerts you to pay attention. Anger tells you a boundary has been crossed. Sadness helps you process what matters deeply to you. Joy shows you what brings you alive. When I was healing from cancer, I realized I had been pushing down decades of emotions, storing them in my body where they created tension and illness. The moment I started listening to these feelings with kindness instead of judgment, my healing accelerated in ways that amazed my doctors. Here's the gentle technique that changed everything. When you notice an emotion arising, place your hand on your heart and say, "I see you. I hear you. What do you need me to know?" Then breathe and listen for just 30 seconds. You're not trying to fix or change the emotion. You're simply acknowledging it with the same kindness you'd show a child who needs comfort. This simple act of witnessing transforms your relationship with all your feelings. When you start listening to your emotions with this kind of kindness, you'll discover something wonderful. You'll crave quiet moments to hear their wisdom more clearly. When you begin treating your emotions as wise teachers, you'll naturally want quiet space to hear what they're telling you. But our noisy, constantly buzzing world makes this almost impossible. Let me show you how to create sacred moments that change everything. In just 5 minutes of intentional quiet, you'll access insights that years of thinking couldn't provide. The answers you've been seeking about relationships, career decisions, and life direction aren't hidden in books or other people's advice. They're already present in your own awareness, waiting to be heard. During my healing journey, I discovered that my greatest breakthroughs came not from doing more, but from creating space to listen. In those quiet moments, I received guidance about my treatment, my relationships, and my life purpose that proved more valuable than any external advice. Start with just 5 minutes each morning before checking your phone. Sit comfortably, breathe naturally, and ask yourself one simple question. What do I most need to know today? Then just listen, without forcing any answers. Sometimes insights come immediately. Sometimes you simply feel more peaceful. Sometimes nothing seems to happen, and that's perfect too. You're building your capacity to be present with yourself, which is the foundation for everything else. In that sacred quiet, you'll begin to notice something fascinating about the constant conversation happening in your mind, and realize you have the power to change it. Now that you can recognize your wisdom voice, listen to your emotions with kindness, and create quiet space for reflection. Here's how to transform that internal conversation permanently. The cruel voice you've been hearing isn't set in stone. You can literally rewire it with love. Here's the simple technique that rewrote my entire relationship with myself. The moment you catch yourself in harsh self-talk, pause and say, stop, rewind, love version. Then immediately replace that critical thought with what you'd say to someone you care about deeply. Instead of, I'm so stupid for making that mistake, try, I'm human and I'm learning. Instead of, I look terrible today, try, I'm having a rough morning and that's okay. Instead of, I'll never succeed, try, I'm growing and improving every day. At first, you'll catch yourself after minutes or hours of self-criticism. Gradually, you'll notice it sooner. Eventually, the loving voice becomes your default setting because you've practiced it consistently. I watched a man transform his chronic anxiety by changing his internal dialogue. Instead of his mind's constant catastrophic predictions, he trained himself to think, I can handle whatever comes my way. His anxiety didn't disappear overnight, but his relationship with uncertainty changed completely. As your inner voice becomes consistently kinder, you'll discover something beautiful about all those imperfections you've been trying to hide. As your internal dialogue becomes more loving, you'll make a shocking discovery. Those flaws you've been trying to fix or hide are actually your greatest strengths in disguise. You've been withholding love from yourself until you're perfect. But what if I told you that your imperfections are what make you beautifully human? For years, I believed I had to be perfect to deserve love. I exhausted myself trying to say the right things, look perfect, never make mistakes. But during my healing from cancer, I realized that my vulnerability, my struggles, and yes, even my mistakes, were what allowed me to connect deeply with others and discover my life's purpose. The moment I stopped trying to be perfect and started being real, everything changed. People were drawn to my authenticity, not my perfection. My work became more powerful because it came from truth, not performance. Here's how to see your flaws through eyes of love. Your sensitivity isn't weakness, it's emotional intelligence. Your tendency to overthink isn't neurosis, it's thoroughness. Your perfectionism isn't failure, it's high standards that just need healthier expression. Try this right now. Think of one thing you criticize about yourself. Now ask, How has this trait also served me? What strength might be hiding inside this perceived weakness? You'll be amazed at what you discover. Each morning, look in the mirror and find one thing you appreciate about yourself. Not just your appearance, but your character, your efforts, your growth. Say it out loud with genuine kindness. I appreciate how hard you're trying. Or, I love your compassionate heart. This isn't fake positive thinking. It's training yourself to see what's already beautiful about you, instead of focusing only on what needs fixing. This self-acceptance creates the foundation for something life-changing. Daily practices that nurture your relationship with yourself and transform everything else in your world. When you finally accept yourself as perfectly imperfect, something magical happens. You start craving ways to nurture this beautiful relationship with yourself. But here's what's extraordinary. You now have all the tools you need. Let me show you how to weave everything you've learned into one powerful daily practice that changes everything. Think about the journey you've just taken with me. You can now recognize the difference between your fear voice and wisdom voice. You know how to listen to your emotions with compassion. You've learned to rewrite limiting stories from childhood. You can your inner dialogue with love. You have created sacred space for reflection, and you're embracing your beautiful imperfections. Most people learn these concepts separately and never connect them. But you're about to discover how they work together as one integrated practice that transforms your entire life. Here's the 5-minute morning practice that combines everything. Sit quietly and take 3 loving breaths. Ask your wisdom voice, what do I most need to know today? Listen without forcing an answer. If any emotions arise, place your hand on your heart and say, I see you, I hear you. If limiting thoughts appear, gently rewrite them with love. Speak to yourself the way you'd speak to your dearest friend. End by looking in the mirror and saying, I love and accept you exactly as you are today. Let's see what beautiful, imperfect adventures await us. This simple ritual uses every single tool you've learned, creating a foundation of self-love that supports everything else you do. When you practice this consistently, miraculous changes begin. You stop seeking validation from others because you're giving it to yourself. You make decisions from love instead of fear. You attract people and opportunities that match your new level of self-respect. Problems that once overwhelmed you become manageable because you're no longer fighting yourself while trying to solve them. This daily foundation of self-love creates something profound: the courage to live as your most authentic self in every area of your life. When you begin each day rooted in self-love, something beautiful happens. You start making choices that honor your true nature instead of pleasing others or avoiding disappointment. The daily practice I just shared doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you live. Here's what authentic living looks like in practice. You speak up in meetings because your wisdom voice says your ideas matter. You end friendships that drain you because your emotional awareness shows you what genuine connection feels like. You pursue creative dreams you've been hiding because your rewritten inner dialogue says, I'm worthy of following my passions. When I finally left my corporate career to become a teacher and healer, people thought I was crazy. But my daily self-love practice had taught me to trust my heart's guidance over other people's fears. That risky decision led to the most fulfilling decades of my life. Here's how to make authentic decisions using everything you've learned. Before any major choice, sit quietly and ask your wisdom voice. What would love choose here? Feel the answer in your body. Does it create expansion or contraction? Listen to what emotions arise. Are they guiding you toward or away from something important? Then check your inner dialogue. Are you choosing from love or fear? From your authentic truth or old limiting stories? This compass never lies when you've learned to use it with love and trust. Living authentically requires courage. But here's what most people don't realize. You've been building that courage through every act of self-love. Each time you spoke to yourself with kindness instead of criticism, you grew stronger. Each time you honored your emotions instead of suppressing them, you became braver. Each time you questioned limiting stories instead of accepting them, you claimed more of your power. You're not starting from zero. You're already becoming the person who lives authentically. Can you feel how different you are right now compared to when we started this journey together? Let me show you the profound transformation that's already begun. My beautiful friend, I want you to pause and recognize something extraordinary. You are not the same person who started watching this video. In just these few minutes, you've gained tools that most people never learn in a lifetime. You've taken a journey that changes everything. When we began, you were looking outside yourself for solutions, listening to the cruel voice that called you not good enough, suppressing emotions that needed your attention, believing childhood stories that weren't true, speaking to yourself with harsh criticism, and exhausting yourself trying to be perfect. Now look at you. You recognize your wisdom voice and trust its guidance. You treat your emotions as wise messengers. You question limiting stories and rewrite them with truth. You speak to yourself with love and compassion. You embrace your imperfections as beautiful humanity. You have a daily practice that nurtures your soul. Here's what's profound. These aren't separate skills. They're all expressions of one fundamental shift. You've learned to love yourself unconditionally. Everything else, the voice recognition, emotional awareness, story rewriting, inner dialogue transformation, flows from this one revolutionary act of self-acceptance.